AITA for refusing to babysit my brother's kids after he called me selfish for setting boundaries. So, I, 28F, have always been the responsible one in my family. I have a stable job, I live on my own, and I try to help my family whenever I can, but I also value my personal space and mental health. My younger brother, Mike, 25M, has always relied on me a lot. He's a good person, but he tends to make impulsive choices and expects others to clean up the mess, literally and figuratively. Mike has 2 kids, ages 4 and 2, and his wife, Laura, stays home with them. She's a sweet person, but the last couple of years have been really rough for their family financially and emotionally. I get that. I've tried to help in the past, giving money when they were short, babysitting occasionally, helping with homework, that sort of thing. But lately, I've been feeling like the balance is off. I love my niece and nephew, but I also have a demanding job, social life, and my own plans that I need to protect. A couple of months ago, Mike called me in a panic. He and Laura had a last-minute work obligation, and they needed someone to watch the kids for the weekend. I told him I couldn't do the entire weekend because I had prior commitments, but I offered to help for a few hours on Saturday. Mike blew up on me. He said I was being selfish and that family should always come first. I tried to explain that I was willing to help within my limits, but he insisted that anything less than all weekend was unacceptable. That was the first time I really started to question how much I was willing to sacrifice. A few weeks later, a similar situation happened. Laura had to go out of town for a family emergency, and Mike asked if I could watch the kids for 3 full days. I said no. I explained that I had work, deadlines, and responsibilities of my own, and that 3 days was just too much for me. Mike texted me saying that he was disappointed in me and that I clearly didn't care about my family. I was hurt. I felt like he was guilt-tripping me for having boundaries. I talked to my parents about it, and they said they understood my side, but also reminded me that family is important and sometimes sacrifices have to be made. I felt torn because I do love my family and I do try to help, but I also feel like I can't be their emergency babysitter whenever it's convenient for them. Fast forward to last weekend. Mike called again, saying that both he and Laura had urgent work deadlines and that the kids couldn't be left alone. He asked me to watch them for 2 days. I flat out said no. I told him I already had plans, and that while I wished I could help, this time I simply could not. He got angry and accused me of being selfish, immature, and not caring about my niece and nephew. He even said that if I couldn't help, maybe I shouldn't be part of the family at all. I was shocked and upset. I told him that being part of the family doesn't mean I have to drop everything at the drop of a hat, and that my love and support doesn't have to come in the form of constant childcare. I offered other forms of help, like paying for a babysitter, helping them plan activities, or assisting with meals, but he rejected all of it. The argument got worse. He said that my parents were disappointed in me too, and that I needed to grow up and stop being selfish. At this point, I started to wonder if I was wrong. Maybe I was being unreasonable by refusing to help him for a couple of days. But at the same time, I felt like my boundaries were completely reasonable. I have a career, my own home, and I'm not in a position to be an unpaid childcare provider full-time. After that conversation, I didn't talk to Mike for a few days. When I finally reached out, he accused me again of not caring about the family and said he was reevaluating our relationship. My parents stepped in and tried to mediate. They said that families should support each other, but also that it's okay to have boundaries. Honestly, that made me feel a little better, but I still can't shake the guilt. Here's the thing. I've helped in the past. I've babysat for a few hours here and there, brought meals over, spent time with the kids, and supported them financially when needed. But this idea that I should drop everything for multiple days on end every time something unexpected comes up feels unfair. I feel like I'm being penalized for having my own life and responsibilities. Mike's reaction has caused tension with other family members too. Some say I should just help this one time to keep the peace, but I don't think that's sustainable. If I give in every time, I'll end up resenting him and burning out. I've tried to explain that boundaries don't mean I don't care, but he refuses to accept it. I'm starting to wonder if I'm really being selfish or if this is just a case of unrealistic expectations. I love my niece and nephew and want to be involved in their lives, but I also need to prioritize my own mental health and life goals. So, AITA for refusing to babysit my brother's kids for multiple days, even though he says I'm being selfish and not caring about family. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and motivates me to keep creating more great content. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Thanks so much for your support. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her unusual guest request. I, 32F, have always been close to my younger sister, Laura, 28F. We grew up with a bit of a complicated family dynamic. Our parents divorced when we were young and both remarried, giving us a combined total of 6 siblings. Despite all of that, Laura and I have always been each other's constants. So, when she got engaged last year, I was genuinely thrilled. Laura's fiancé, Mark, 30M, is generally great. They've been together for almost 5 years, and I really like him. The problem started when she began talking about her wedding plans. At first, it was the usual stuff: venue, dress, guest list. Then, about 2 months ago, she casually mentioned that she wanted all the bridesmaids to wear specific aesthetic-themed masks for the ceremony. I didn't think much of it at first, but when she explained further, I realized what she meant. She wanted everyone in the wedding party, including the family, to wear elaborate Venetian-style masks the entire ceremony. Not as a costume for fun, but as a strict requirement. No face visible, no exceptions, and apparently, this included the reception and any photos. She said it was for the aesthetic of the wedding and to preserve an air of mystery and elegance. I told her I didn't think I could do that. I like photos and I like seeing people's faces, but she brushed it off and said, "It's my wedding. You can either comply or don't come." I tried reasoning with her, saying that I would feel uncomfortable wearing a mask in front of family for hours, that I wouldn't be able to interact normally, and that photos without faces would be weird for future memories. She told me I was overreacting and that everyone else had agreed. I asked who else had agreed, and she admitted that she hadn't actually asked most people yet, but she assumed they would understand because it's artistic. Over the next few weeks, the tension escalated. She sent me multiple links to mask stores, pictures of masks, and videos of masked weddings, insisting that I pick one immediately. Every time I said no, she became more upset and started sending long messages about how she was hurt that I wasn't supporting her vision and how my refusal made me look selfish. Then things got worse. Laura called me last week crying, saying that she didn't know why I couldn't just do this for her special day. She accused me of trying to control her wedding and said that if I didn't participate, I wouldn't be welcome at the wedding at all. That's when I told her point blank that I wasn't attending. I explained that I couldn't force myself to be comfortable in a situation that felt performative and isolating, and that I thought her ultimatum was unreasonable. My parents are now divided. Mom thinks I'm being dramatic and should just put on a mask for a few hours to support my sister, while Dad says I'm justified because it's an extreme and unnecessary request. Some of our siblings have taken Laura's side, saying I'm being rigid and that it's just one day, and it's her wedding, not mine. Others agree with me, saying that forcing someone into wearing a mask for hours in a social setting could be anxiety-inducing and is not a reasonable expectation. The family dynamic has become tense. I haven't spoken to Laura directly since telling her I wouldn't attend, and she hasn't reached out except for a few angry texts saying that she hopes I reconsider and that she thought I cared about her. I feel guilty because I love my sister, but at the same time, the thought of spending a day pretending to be someone else, unable to connect with anyone naturally, and feeling like a prop in her vision makes me anxious and uncomfortable. Adding another layer, some friends have suggested that maybe I should try to compromise, like wearing a mask only for the ceremony or photos, but even that feels wrong to me. I'm worried that if I compromise, it will just escalate expectations for me to comply with even more extreme requests in the future. I also feel like my boundaries are being dismissed, and that bothers me more than missing a wedding. I've tried to explain all of this to Laura gently, but she just says that I don't understand her creative vision and that I'm making her biggest day about myself. She also told me I'm the only family member refusing, which makes me feel like the bad guy, even though I know my decision is about my comfort and boundaries, not about punishing her. I feel torn because I don't want to damage our relationship permanently, but I also can't ignore how uncomfortable and unnatural this whole situation feels. I've thought about trying to attend just the reception without the mask, but she made it clear that if I attend unmasked, it's considered disrespectful, and she won't acknowledge my presence. So now I'm wondering, am I really the asshole for refusing to attend a wedding over a mask? Or is my sister being unreasonable with her demands? I feel like I'm standing up for myself, but everyone else seems to think I'm overreacting, and I don't want to be the cause of more family drama than necessary. I've been losing sleep over this, and I'm honestly heartbroken that our relationship might suffer because of this, but the thought of attending under these conditions makes me physically tense. My friends tell me that boundaries are important, but my sister keeps framing it as selfishness. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because I don't want to wear a mask the entire day. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her bridal party demands. So, this is going to be a long one, but I need an outside perspective because my family is completely divided over this, and I genuinely don't know if I'm being unreasonable. I, 28F, have a younger sister, 25F, who is getting married next summer. She's always been a bit controlling, but I didn't think it would be this extreme until she started planning her wedding. From the beginning, she said she wanted all of her bridesmaids to look perfectly coordinated and that she would be very strict about appearances, budgets, and schedules. I brushed it off at first because I wanted to be supportive, but things escalated quickly. A few months ago, she formally asked me to be in her bridal party. The initial excitement quickly turned into dread when she sent me a long email listing all the requirements for bridesmaids. These included spending at least $1,500 on a dress, shoes, accessories, and hair/makeup appointments. Committing to 3 separate pre-wedding events, a weekend-long bachelorette, a bridal shower in another city, and a rehearsal dinner, with no exceptions. Coordinating with her other bridesmaids on hair and makeup, including purchasing specific products she specified. Following a very strict weight and skincare guideline she provided to ensure everyone looks uniform in photos. I was honestly shocked. I have a decent job, but the budget she's asking for would take a huge chunk out of my savings. On top of that, I work a physically demanding job, so committing to 3 extra weekend events plus spending hours on hair and makeup appointments just isn't realistic for me. I tried to talk to her about it calmly, saying I wanted to be part of her wedding, but I couldn't commit to the financial and time obligations she was asking for. Her response was not great. She accused me of being selfish and not valuing our relationship. She said that if I couldn't meet all the requirements, I couldn't be in the wedding party at all. She also suggested that if I declined, I would be sidelined during the wedding and that she would make sure it's awkward for me. I felt cornered. I ultimately decided to decline being in the bridal party. I explained to her that I loved her and I wanted to celebrate her wedding, but I couldn't afford or manage the demand she was placing on me. I also offered to help in smaller ways, like assisting with decorations, helping with the guest list, or being a supportive family member on the day of the wedding. Her reaction was extreme. She accused me of ruining her wedding and said that my decision showed I didn't care about her happiness. She told our parents, who are now pressuring me to reconsider because they think I'm being unreasonable and that family should make sacrifices for each other. The situation got messy when the rest of the bridal party started getting involved. A few of the other bridesmaids expressed that they also felt stressed and pressured, but some are going along with it because they don't want conflict. One of my cousins even told me that refusing will make me the villain in family photos and stories for years. I've been extremely stressed over this. I want to support my sister, but I also can't justify spending so much money and time to meet unrealistic standards. I've considered caving just to avoid drama, but I'm worried that if I do, I'll resent the entire experience and it will harm our relationship long term. I also can't help but feel that the level of control she's exerting over everyone in the bridal party is excessive. I've been a bridesmaid in other weddings, and while some coordination is expected, nothing I've experienced ever demanded this level of personal sacrifice. It feels less like celebrating her marriage and more like a personal performance she's demanding from us. Since saying no, I've had multiple family members call me selfish, ungrateful, or a troublemaker, while some have privately admitted they think my sister is being unreasonable. My friends are split, too. Some say I should just compromise for family, and others say I have every right to protect my time and finances. I've been trying to maintain contact with my sister, but every conversation ends with her expressing hurt and anger. She said she's disappointed in me and that she won't forget this, which makes me feel guilty even though I don't think I'm in the wrong. I want to make it clear, I am going to attend the wedding. I just won't be in the bridal party. I've offered to help in any other way that works for my schedule and budget, and I'm committed to celebrating her day in whatever capacity I can. I just don't want to be bullied into spending beyond my means or following unreasonable demands. So here I am, genuinely torn. Am I the asshole for refusing to be a bridesmaid under these conditions? Or is my sister being unfair in expecting such a rigid and costly level of commitment from me and the other bridesmaids? I'm not asking for validation. I just want to know if I'm being truly unreasonable or if I'm justified in setting boundaries with my sister. AITA for ruining my sister's wedding over a disagreement about a family heirloom? So this is going to be long because there's a lot of backstory, but I'll try to keep it organized. I, 29F, have a younger sister, Emma, 26F, who is getting married next month. We grew up in a pretty traditional family, and our parents were always very sentimental about heirlooms and family traditions. One such heirloom is a necklace that belonged to my great-grandmother. It's gold, delicate, and has a small sapphire in the center. Our grandmother passed it down to my mom, and then my mom promised it would eventually be passed to the first daughter to get married in the family. Growing up, Emma and I had our fair share of fights, like any sisters do, but we were close. We also had an unspoken understanding that some things were off limits, and the necklace was one of those things. It was always Emma's when she marries, but I also knew my mom had hinted several times that she might let me wear it for special occasions if I asked politely. Fast forward to 2 months ago, Emma got engaged and the wedding planning started. I helped her with a lot of it because I really wanted her big day to be amazing. The problem started when I found out she had decided not to wear the necklace at all. She said she didn't want anything old or traditional because she wanted to start fresh with her own family traditions. I get that, and I try to respect her wishes, but I felt kind of hurt. This necklace was always meant to be hers, and now it wasn't going to be part of her big day. A week later, my mom casually mentioned that the necklace could be worn by me at the wedding if I wanted. She said she didn't want it to go unused, and that it would be nice for someone to wear it, especially since she knew I didn't have any heirlooms of my own. I thanked her, but didn't think much of it until I ran into my fiancé, Jake, 31M, and he suggested maybe I should wear it for the wedding since it would be beautiful and meaningful. At this point, I started feeling conflicted. I knew Emma wasn't planning to wear it, but I also knew it was technically hers to wear. Things came to a head the week before the wedding. I decided to try it on to see if it fit, and it did perfectly. I thought, why not? And I texted Emma a picture of me wearing it, saying, "Look how pretty this necklace is. I know you're not planning to wear it, but I couldn't resist trying it on." Her response was immediate and furious. She said I had crossed a line and accused me of stealing her moment and turning her wedding into a competition. I tried to explain that I didn't mean it like that, and that I only wore it because she wasn't planning to, but she wasn't having it. She then told me not to wear it to the wedding under any circumstances. I felt blindsided. I thought I was honoring the family tradition and making my mom happy. I tried to talk to her in person, but she refused and told me to drop it. I went to my mom, who told me she didn't want to be in the middle of our feud, but she did say it would be nice for me to wear it if Emma really didn't want it. At this point, I was torn. The day of the wedding came, and I still couldn't decide. I put the necklace in my bag, thinking I'd maybe just wear it during the reception if things were calm. When I got to the ceremony, I saw Emma looking stunning and happy, and I honestly thought about leaving it in my bag. But then, during the family photos, my mom casually draped the necklace around my neck and whispered, "You should wear it." I froze because Emma was standing right there. Long story short, I ended up wearing it for the rest of the day. During the ceremony, a few extended family members complimented it and asked about it, which is when Emma lost it. She pulled me aside and yelled at me in front of everyone, saying it was her day and that I had ruined it. My dad tried to intervene. My mom got upset with both of us, and it turned into this huge public argument. Emma stormed off, crying, and my parents told me to just take it off and calm down, which I did after a few minutes. Afterward, the atmosphere was tense for the rest of the wedding. Some family members tried to support me, saying I wasn't in the wrong, but others thought I should have respected Emma's wishes no matter what. Emma hasn't spoken to me properly since, and I've been getting texts from mutual friends calling me selfish and saying I stole her wedding. I honestly thought I was doing something nice and meaningful by wearing it, but now I see how it could be interpreted as me trying to overshadow her. I feel terrible about the way things escalated, but at the same time, I didn't think I was being wrong because I genuinely believed she wasn't going to use the necklace. So, Reddit, AITA for wearing my sister's family heirloom at her wedding even though she explicitly told me not to. AITA for refusing to include my stepdaughter in my wedding after her mother threatened to make things difficult if I did. I, 32F, have been dating my fiancé, Mark, 35M, for about 4 years. Mark has a daughter, Lily, who is 10. I'll start by saying that my relationship with Lily is generally fine. We get along, and she's a sweet kid. But things have always been a bit complicated because of her mom, Sarah, 33F. Sarah and Mark split when Lily was very young. And although they co-parent relatively civilly, Sarah has a tendency to be manipulative and very controlling, especially about Lily. Mark and I got engaged last year, and we started talking about wedding plans earlier this year. Initially, I thought about including Lily in the ceremony somehow, maybe as a flower girl or walking down the aisle with Mark. I even mentioned it casually to Sarah, thinking she would appreciate being included in the discussion. Big mistake. Sarah responded with a long text that basically said, and I'm paraphrasing, "I don't think Lily should be in your wedding. I don't want her put in a position where she has to choose between us or be made to feel awkward. I also expect this wedding to be completely separate from my daughter's life because I don't trust you to manage this in a healthy way. If you try to force it, it's going to cause a lot of drama, and I won't hesitate to take action." I was shocked. I wasn't forcing anything. I was simply thinking about how to make Lily feel included. I brought this up to Mark, and he was torn. He hates confrontation with Sarah and tends to placate her, but he also doesn't want our wedding to be a source of stress. After a long discussion, we decided it would probably be best not to include Lily in the ceremony, at least not formally, to avoid conflict with her mom. That was months ago. Fast forward to last weekend. I was at a bridal shower with my friends and family. During the shower, one of my relatives, my cousin, who is close to Lily's family, brought up that she heard from Sarah that I was cutting Lily out of the wedding on purpose and trying to alienate her from her father. My stomach sank. The rumors spread so fast that even some distant relatives who weren't involved started asking me about it. I tried to explain calmly that this was not true and that we were trying to navigate the situation carefully to avoid drama. But apparently, Sarah had already framed it as me being the villain. Now my aunt, who I'm very close to, told me that she's disappointed in me and that Lily should absolutely be part of my wedding because she's Mark's daughter and this is her family too. Mark is frustrated because he feels stuck between me and his ex. He's also upset that the situation has now become public gossip. I told him that I was not going to include Lily in a formal role at the wedding if it's going to make things toxic, and I would instead plan a small, private moment where Lily can feel included, like having a special dance with her dad during the reception. He agreed privately, but worries that family will be upset. My mom and sister have also weighed in, and they're mostly supportive, but a few other relatives are now subtly criticizing me, saying things like, "You're breaking up a family," or "You shouldn't let an ex dictate your wedding." The thing is, I'm not trying to hurt anyone. I just want to protect the day from being sabotaged or turning into a conflict with Sarah. I understand that Lily is Mark's daughter and that she's important to both of us. But I also feel like Sarah's interference puts me in a position where any gesture might be twisted. I've tried to be kind, and Mark has reassured me that Lily knows I care about her. We have plans for her to be involved in small, private ways and to celebrate together before or after the wedding, without causing unnecessary drama with Sarah. I'm starting to feel guilty because the backlash from family is getting intense. I even had a few friends suggest that if this continues, it might be easier just to include Lily in some kind of official role to keep the peace, even if it's stressful. But every time I think about that, I get anxious imagining Sarah making the day all about herself or manipulating Lily to express some feelings that aren't hers. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to include my stepdaughter in my wedding ceremony because of her mother's threats and potential drama. I genuinely feel like I'm trying to protect the wedding, not hurt Lily, but the family drama is making me second-guess myself. The worst part is, I love Lily and she knows it. I just can't handle a scenario where her mom uses her as a pawn, and I also don't want my family's wedding to become a battlefield. I'm trying to find a compromise that keeps Lily included, but doesn't give Sarah an excuse to make everything miserable. Am I being unreasonable for prioritizing the peace of my wedding day over what some relatives see as a duty to include Lily formally? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay in my house after an incident that happened last year? This is going to be a long one, so bear with me. I, 32F, live in a medium-sized city and have a decent apartment that I've worked hard to make my own. I've always been close with my sister, Lena, 30F, but our relationship has been complicated over the years. Lena has always been the kind of person who, while loving, tends to overstep boundaries. She recently got engaged to a man named Mark, 33M, who she's been dating for about 2 years. I had met him a handful of times before the engagement and thought he was okay, though kind of quiet and, for what I could tell, not particularly proactive in social situations. Last year, Lena and Mark came to my apartment for a casual dinner with a few friends. Everything started fine, but things quickly escalated in a way that I've been unable to forget. Mark drank more than he should have and became argumentative over little things, particularly around my dog. I have a rescue who's very sensitive to strangers and loud voices, and I always ask people to treat him gently and follow certain rules in my home. Mark ignored them completely. At one point, he grabbed my dog roughly when he was hiding under the couch, claiming he was just trying to be friendly. My dog yelped and hid even further, which set me off. I confronted him, and instead of apologizing, he doubled down and said I was overreacting and that my dog needed to toughen up. The argument escalated, and things got worse. He started criticizing my apartment, my friends, and even my cooking in front of everyone. I told him to leave multiple times, but Lena intervened, saying I was being too harsh and that we should all just relax and have fun. At that point, I realized my house was no longer a safe or comfortable space for me. He ended up leaving after a heated confrontation with me, but Lena was visibly upset at me and avoided talking to me for weeks afterward. Fast forward to now. Lena and Mark are planning a short trip to my city, and she casually mentioned that they were thinking of staying with me for a few days instead of booking a hotel. I was taken aback because of what happened last year, and I told her I didn't feel comfortable having Mark in my home. I tried to explain that it wasn't about her or our friendship, but about Mark's behavior and the fact that I don't feel safe having him in my space. Lena reacted extremely negatively. She accused me of holding grudges, being petty, and trying to control her life by refusing to host them. She said that Mark has changed and that I should let the past go, but I reminded her that it wasn't about holding a grudge. It was about protecting my home and myself. She argued that I was being unreasonable and that our family would think I was rude for refusing. Since then, my parents have gotten involved. They called me and said I should just bite the bullet and let them stay, arguing that families should stick together and that it's been a year, so I should forgive and forget. My friends are divided. Some say I'm completely justified, while others think I might be overreacting and that I could just put some rules in place to make it work. I feel like hosting Mark will be a major violation of my boundaries. I'm someone who values my personal space highly, and I've never had anyone make me feel unsafe in my own home like he did. I also worry that if I let them stay, it might set a precedent where Lena assumes she can disregard my comfort whenever she wants. On the other hand, I do love my sister and want to maintain a good relationship with her, and it feels awful to have family pressure to allow someone who made me uncomfortable in my own home. I have tried suggesting alternatives, like helping them find a nearby hotel or even inviting them for dinner instead of full stay. But Lena keeps insisting that it's not the same and that it's unreasonable to not want to host them. Mark hasn't reached out to apologize or acknowledge what happened last year, which I think is part of why I feel strongly about this. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay in my house after what happened last year. I know some people might say that I should just get over it, but I'm not sure how to balance family expectations with personal boundaries. I also worry that saying no might damage my relationship with Lena permanently, but I also know I can't sacrifice my own sense of safety and comfort for the sake of appearances. I just want some perspective on whether I'm being too rigid or if my feelings are valid. AITA for refusing to invite my sister's husband to my wedding after what he did at my engagement party. So, some context first. I, 29F, have been with my fiancé, Mark, 31M, for 5 years, and we recently got engaged. I come from a fairly close-knit family, though my sister, Emma, 32F, has always had a bit of a competitive streak. She's been married to her husband, Greg, 34M, for 6 years. Overall, I like Greg well enough. He's generally polite, but he's had a habit of making everything about him, especially at family gatherings. We announced our engagement a couple of months ago, and we wanted to do a small party at my parents' house. We invited close friends and family, maybe 20 people total. Everything was going fine until Greg showed up. He immediately started making jokes at my expense. For example, Mark had prepared a heartfelt speech about how much he loved me and our plans for the future. Greg, apparently thinking he was being funny, interrupted halfway through to ask if Mark had checked the return policy before proposing. Everyone laughed awkwardly. I was furious, but I tried to brush it off. Things escalated. Greg then moved on to my parents, claiming that my mother's roast beef sandwiches were overly ambitious for a weekday party and that no one eats this much meat these days. At this point, I was mortified because a lot of our older relatives were genuinely offended. Then, the kicker, he loudly declared that the engagement ring Mark gave me was cute, but could have gotten something bigger, before walking off to get himself another drink. People were trying to make jokes to defuse the tension, but it felt like a slap in the face. Mark was visibly upset, and I wanted to vanish. After the party, I confronted Emma privately. I told her Greg's behavior had been completely inappropriate and asked her to talk to him. She laughed and said, "Oh, you're too sensitive. Greg's just being Greg. Everyone knows he likes to tease." I pointed out that teasing is one thing, but making someone feel humiliated in front of friends and family is another. She shrugged and said he wouldn't do it again, which, looking back, I should have taken as a warning sign. Fast forward a month. Mark and I are planning the wedding. We've agreed to a small ceremony with close family, and we're trying to keep things simple to avoid family drama. I'm sitting down with our guest list when Mark casually mentions that Emma assumes Greg will be invited. I froze. I knew that if Greg was at the wedding, it would overshadow the day and possibly create another scene. I explained my reservations to Mark, detailing everything from the engagement party. Mark agreed it was concerning, but said he didn't want to cause a family feud. I tried to reason with Emma gently. I said we were keeping the wedding small and that, unfortunately, we couldn't accommodate everyone. She immediately blew up. She accused me of being unfair, saying, "You're punishing Greg for being friendly. He's family. You're supposed to love him, not blacklist him." I reminded her that what happened at the engagement party wasn't friendly and that it genuinely upset me and Mark. She said I was being dramatic and that our wedding shouldn't be a place for picking sides. I told her bluntly that Greg's presence was not negotiable and that I would prefer she attend alone. She screamed at me over the phone for an hour, calling me controlling, immature, and selfish. Then she said, "Fine, I won't come if he's not invited," which honestly hurt, but I don't feel like I can compromise my own comfort and the safety of the event. I sent her a message confirming that our guest list would remain as planned. Since then, family members have started weighing in. My parents are upset with me for causing tension between Emma and me. My aunt texted Mark, saying that excluding Greg is mean and unnecessary. A few cousins have hinted that they think I'm overreacting. I'm starting to feel some guilt, but I also remember exactly how embarrassed and powerless I felt during the engagement party, and I don't want to relive that. Mark has been very supportive, but he's worried about long-term family fallout. He said he understands why I don't want Greg there, but he keeps asking if there's any way to smooth things over without compromising our wedding. I suggested maybe hosting a small family gathering afterward where Greg could come, but he hasn't agreed to that yet. So, Reddit, here's the dilemma. I feel strongly that Greg should not be at our wedding because his behavior at the engagement party was humiliating and disrespectful. On the other hand, Emma is refusing to come without him, and family members are saying I'm being unreasonable. I don't want to cause a rift, but I also don't want to compromise my special day and let someone who made me feel humiliated ruin it. AITA for refusing to invite my sister's husband to my wedding after what he did at my engagement party. Character count, 6,579 if you want. I can also draft a part 2 version with even more emotional tension and family fallout, which often drives these stories to viral popularity. It would be longer and even messier in true Reddit AITA style. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to give my sister's boyfriend a huge loan and causing a family feud? So I, 28F, have always tried to be the responsible one in my family. I work a steady job in finance, and I've been slowly saving to buy my first house. My younger sister, Emily, 24F, has always been a bit more free-spirited. She's smart and talented, but not great with money. Our parents tend to bail her out whenever she gets into financial trouble, which has caused some tension between us. About 6 months ago, Emily started dating this guy, Jason, 26M. At first, I liked him. He seemed charming, funny, and attentive. But over time, I started noticing some red flags. He has a habit of exaggerating his accomplishments, frequently complains about not having enough money, and tends to avoid responsibility when things go wrong. My sister clearly adores him, and I didn't want to interfere, so I mostly kept my opinions to myself. 2 months ago, Emily called me crying. She told me that Jason had lost his job, and they didn't have enough money to pay their rent. She begged me to help them out, saying they only needed a small loan, and that she would pay me back as soon as possible. At first, I was sympathetic, but when she mentioned the amount, $7,000, I nearly choked. That's almost everything I've saved for my house down payment. I told her that I couldn't give them that much money, and I offered a smaller amount, enough to cover a couple of weeks of rent, with the agreement that she'd pay it back within a month. She immediately got upset, saying I didn't trust her, that I was being selfish, and that I had plenty of money. I explained that $7,000 is a serious financial commitment, and that I needed to protect my own future, but she insisted I was being unreasonable. The next day, Emily came over with Jason. They tried to guilt-trip me, saying things like, "We're family, shouldn't you help us? And don't you care about me?" Jason started getting more aggressive, pointing out that I make more money than anyone else in the family, and that I should be supporting them. I stayed firm and reiterated that I could help with a smaller loan, but not the full $7,000. Things escalated quickly. Jason accused me of being cold and selfish, and Emily started crying and yelling that I didn't care about her struggles. I refused to give in, and eventually they left. I thought that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. Over the next few weeks, Emily stopped talking to me. She started posting passive-aggressive messages on social media about family who only think about themselves and siblings who can't support each other when it really matters. Our parents got involved, calling me repeatedly, trying to pressure me to give them the money. They said I was being heartless and that family should come first. I explained my position, but they dismissed it and accused me of being greedy. A few days ago, Emily threw a family dinner meltdown. She brought Jason, and she openly berated me in front of everyone. She said I was the reason they were struggling, and that if I had just been generous, they wouldn't be in this situation. Jason chimed in with his own accusations, and my parents backed them up. I tried to stay calm, but I ended up leaving mid-dinner because it was turning into a full-blown argument. Now the family is split. Some of my extended family members think I'm right to protect my savings and set boundaries, while others are siding with Emily, calling me selfish and uncaring. Emily has gone so far as to block me on social media and tell mutual friends that I'm unreliable and manipulative. I've stayed in touch with a few people, but it's painful to be treated like the villain when I feel like I'm doing the responsible thing. I genuinely tried to help without putting my financial security at risk. I offered a smaller loan, but they refused. I feel like I'm being punished for not giving away money I've worked hard to save. But at the same time, I understand why people might see it differently. I want to support my family, but I also have to think about my future. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to give my sister and her boyfriend a $7,000 loan, even though it has caused a major family feud. Character count check, 6,452 characters. Perfectly within your requested range. If you want, I can also write a second version that's slightly longer and with even more drama, hitting closer to 7,000 characters to give it that highly viral Reddit story feel. Do you want me to do that? Hey friends, if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments. We genuinely want to know what you enjoy and what we can improve. What did you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future uploads? Your feedback helps us get better every day. Thanks for sticking with us. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé bring his dog to our wedding, even though she says it's just a dog. So, this is going to be long, but I need perspective because my family thinks I'm the villain here. I, 29F, am getting married next year, and we finally settled on a venue and date after months of back and forth. The venue is small, outdoor, and has strict rules about pets, both for liability and allergy reasons. We have 80 invited guests, and it's supposed to be a fairly intimate ceremony and reception. My sister, 27F, has been dating her fiancé, Tom, 30M, for about 3 years. Tom is what I would call extremely attached to his dog, a German Shepherd mix named Duke. He's one of those owners who treats his dog like it's a human child. He talks to him constantly, carries him around when he's tired, and even has a matching couple's outfit for them. Normally, I wouldn't care about this at all, but things got tricky when wedding planning started. A few months ago, my sister casually mentioned that Tom really wants to bring Duke to the wedding. I told her that the venue doesn't allow pets, and we already have a limited space issue. She waved it off and said, "It's just a dog. Can't you make an exception?" I explained again that it's a liability issue, plus we have elderly relatives and a few children attending who are not comfortable around large dogs. She said she understood, but promised she'd try to convince Tom. Fast forward a couple of weeks, I get a text from my sister saying, Tom is really upset. He says it's not fair that Duke can't be part of the wedding. He's been a big part of our lives for years, and he deserves to be there. I replied that the wedding is about me and my fiancé, 32M, not about Tom or his dog, and that we simply can't make exceptions for pets. She then said, "You're being so unreasonable. It's just a dog. We'll make sure he behaves, and he won't be near kids or elderly people. Why is this a hill you're dying on?" I told her firmly that the answer is no. I said that our guest comfort and the venue's rules come first, and that if Duke were allowed, it would set a precedent for other people wanting to bring pets, which we cannot accommodate. I also reminded her that it's important to respect the couple's wishes on their wedding day, and that includes me and my fiancé. She called me cold and selfish, and said that I was choosing a day over family happiness. This led to a few tense phone calls. During one, she said, "Fine, if you won't let Duke be there, maybe I'll just not come to the ceremony. I'm not going to sit there watching my fiancé and dog be left out." I was shocked. I told her that her attendance at the wedding is important to me, but that her choosing her dog over me and my fiancé is something I can't control. I said, "You're free to make your own choices, but this is not negotiable." The drama escalated when she started posting about it on social media, making subtle comments about how some people care more about rules than people they claim to love. I saw that she tagged Tom in some of the posts. I tried to ignore it, but it made me feel really attacked. Then, last week, she called me crying. She said, "I don't get why you hate Duke so much. He's part of our family. You're literally making my fiancé choose between me and his dog." I told her that no one hates Duke. It's a matter of logistics and respect for the couple's day. She accused me of being rigid, selfish, and controlling, and said I was ruining her happiness for no reason. I got defensive, and we ended up arguing for nearly an hour. Now, my parents are involved. They're upset with me because they think I'm being too harsh and that I could just let the dog come. They say I'm creating unnecessary family tension and that a dog can't really ruin a wedding. My fiancé supports me 100%, saying that he agrees with my reasoning and that it's our day, so we get to make rules. But my sister and parents are making me feel guilty. I've thought about alternatives like letting Tom and Duke take photos before the ceremony, or maybe having him at the rehearsal dinner, but my sister insists that it's not the same as being present during the ceremony and reception. I even considered offering to have a dog-friendly corner outside the venue where Tom could keep Duke safely for a short time, but that seems to have been dismissed outright by them. I feel like I'm being vilified for enforcing a rule that's reasonable, and I don't want to compromise on my wedding day, but at the same time, I don't want to damage my relationship with my sister permanently. I've tried explaining that this is not about Duke personally, but about the boundaries and rules we have to enforce. Yet she keeps framing it as me being cruel and unloving. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé bring his dog to our wedding, even though she says it's just a dog. Character count, 6,314 if you want. I can also write a Part 2 style continuation where the story goes even deeper into the fallout, which tends to increase reader engagement for Reddit. That could push it closer to 7,000 characters and make it feel like one of those truly viral posts. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated my partner? My 28F sister, 32F, is getting married next month, and this has caused a huge rift in our family. I'm still unsure if I'm overreacting or if I'm justified, which is why I'm posting here. I'll try to give a full picture. A bit of background. My partner, Sam, 30M, and I have been together for 4 years. We live together, and our relationship is solid. My sister and Sam have never really gotten along. Early on, she would make snide comments about his job or his hobbies. I try to brush it off, thinking it was just her personality, but it escalated over time. She'd make jokes at family dinners, like implying he wasn't good enough for me or questioning whether we should be moving in together. I usually defended Sam, but my sister is very manipulative, and she has a way of turning everyone against me when I challenge her. Fast forward to now. She got engaged 6 months ago. The first big fight happened when she asked me to help with the wedding planning. I have a demanding job, but I agreed to do a few things. From the start, she was dismissive of any suggestions I made and micromanaged everything I tried to contribute. She openly criticized Sam's absence from planning, even though she never asked him directly to help. At family gatherings, she would make small remarks like, "I guess Sam doesn't care about family traditions, but I wouldn't expect him to." I let it slide, but it was awkward. Things got worse at the bridal shower. My sister's friend, who was in charge of organizing it, invited only people my sister liked, and she made a point of leaving out Sam. When I confronted her about it, she said, "It's a girl's thing. He doesn't need to be there." I told her I was uncomfortable attending without him, but she insisted I come alone. I went, and it was humiliating. People kept asking where Sam was, and I had to awkwardly explain that he wasn't invited. My sister laughed it off, saying, "Don't be so sensitive." After that, I tried to have a serious conversation with her. I told her that excluding Sam and making him a target for criticism wasn't okay, and it made me uncomfortable to be around her when she treated him that way. She got extremely defensive, saying I was overreacting and that she could invite whoever she wanted to her events. She also accused me of putting words in her mouth and turning people against her. The final straw came 2 weeks ago. We were at a family dinner where she announced she had made the seating chart for the wedding. She told me that she intentionally seated Sam far away from the main table and near a group of people she described as people who wouldn't mind his quirks. When I asked why, she smirked and said, "It's his punishment for being boring." I was mortified. I asked if she could reconsider, explaining that it would be incredibly awkward and humiliating for him, and she outright refused. She then said, "Well, I guess you don't want to come if he's not sitting at the main table." I left the dinner feeling upset and conflicted. I love my sister, but I can't stand the idea of Sam being publicly humiliated at a major life event. I told her I wouldn't attend unless she made changes to how she treated him and the seating arrangements. She reacted by sending me a long text calling me selfish, controlling, and dramatic. She also said I was choosing Sam over family, and that if I didn't attend, I was betraying her. I've tried talking to my parents, hoping they would mediate, but they've taken my sister's side. They think I'm overreacting and that I should learn to let things go for a big day. My partner and I have discussed it at length. He's supportive, but doesn't want me to ruin my relationship with my family. Still, the idea of sitting in a room where he's intentionally marginalized is unbearable to me. Now, I've made my decision and told my sister I won't be attending if the seating chart and her behavior towards Sam aren't addressed. She's furious and has started telling other family members that I'm being dramatic and trying to ruin her wedding. Some distant relatives have even reached out to me, saying I should apologize and just go for the sake of family. I feel like I'm being painted as the villain for standing up for my partner. But at the same time, I can't shake the thought that maybe I am overreacting and making this about me. A part of me wants to attend just to avoid the family drama, but another part of me feels like that would be rewarding manipulative behavior and putting Sam through humiliation. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding over how she's treating my partner? Character count, 6,357. AITA for confronting my sister about her parenting and causing a huge family fallout? I, 32F, have always been close to my younger sister, Emily, 28F. Growing up, we were inseparable, even though we were very different in personalities. I'm more structured and detail-oriented, whereas Emily has always been more free-spirited and spontaneous. We've generally balanced each other out, and I always thought that was part of the reason our friendship lasted into adulthood. Emily got married 5 years ago, and she has 2 children, ages 3 and 5. I've always been supportive of her family, visiting often, babysitting when asked, and trying to help out whenever I could. Over the years, I started noticing things about how Emily was raising her kids that made me uneasy. She's a great mom in the sense that she loves her kids, but she has a very relaxed approach to discipline, schedules, and even safety sometimes. For instance, she lets them run around public places without holding hands. She's inconsistent with meals and bedtime, and she rarely enforces rules. One example that sticks out is when she took the kids to a pool party and didn't watch them while they were in the water. A few kids were in the shallow end, but my niece ended up climbing on a float that tipped over. She didn't panic or intervene immediately, and I had to jump in to make sure she didn't get hurt. That kind of thing has happened more than once, and I've always brushed it off as her being laid back. The breaking point came last month. Emily invited me over for dinner with her family, and while I was there, the kids started arguing over a toy. Emily completely ignored it, so I intervened, trying to redirect them and suggest a fair solution. Emily snapped at me, saying I was overstepping and that her kids needed to learn to solve their own problems. I felt my heart sink because the argument escalated quickly, and I could see the frustration on the kids' faces. After dinner, I tried to talk to Emily privately. I told her that I was worried about the kids, that I felt she was neglecting boundaries and safety sometimes, and that I wanted to help her figure out some strategies. She got defensive immediately and accused me of thinking I was a better parent than her. I tried to clarify that I wasn't saying I was better, just that I was concerned and wanted to support her. That only made her angrier. The conversation ended with her yelling at me that I was judgmental, controlling, and that I had no right to interfere in her parenting. I apologized and tried to drop it, but I couldn't shake the feeling that her kids were being left to fend for themselves in small but significant ways. A few days later, I decided to write a long message to Emily. I outlined specific incidents that concerned me, explained why I thought they could be dangerous, and offered practical suggestions. I emphasized that I loved her and the kids, and that my intention was never to criticize her personally, only to protect the children. I sent the message and waited. Her reaction was worse than I expected. She called me hysterical, accused me of trying to start a fight, and said I had no right to involve myself in her family. Then she forwarded my message to our parents, who immediately got involved. My parents have always favored Emily in many ways and tend to downplay my concerns, so they started lecturing me about respecting boundaries and not overstepping. Within 24 hours, a group chat formed including our parents, Emily, and me. Emily sent a very long message outlining every perceived slight I'd ever done, claiming I was judgmental and intrusive. Our parents sided with her, saying I needed to respect her choices as a mother. I tried to explain that my concern was solely for the kids' well-being, but I quickly realized no one wanted to hear it. Since then, the fallout has been intense. Emily refuses to speak to me except through curt texts. My parents are upset with me, and other family members have started taking sides. Even our friends have asked me if I did something wrong because they heard about the fight from Emily. My attempts to apologize for the way I approached it have been met with cold responses or ignored entirely. I'm starting to feel isolated and second-guess myself. On one hand, I know I was trying to protect the kids and offer support. On the other hand, I realize I may have approached it in a way that felt aggressive to Emily. I wish I had found a better method, but I don't regret wanting to stand up for the kids. Now, I'm left wondering if I was truly the asshole here. Did I overstep by confronting Emily directly about her parenting? Or is everyone else failing to recognize legitimate concerns about the children's safety? I feel torn because my intentions were good, but the outcome has been catastrophic for my relationships with my family. I don't know how to fix this, or if it's even possible. Every day, I feel like I'm walking on eggshells, and the tension is unbearable. I'm sharing this because I need an outside perspective. AITA for trying to address my sister's parenting, even though it caused a huge family conflict. The irony is I still love my sister and her kids, and I hope we can reconcile someday, but I don't know if that's realistic anymore. I feel trapped between wanting to protect my nieces and nephews and wanting to repair the family bonds that are unraveling. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her +1 drama? So, some background first. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emily, 25F, who's always been the type to stir up drama without realizing it. Growing up, she was always very socially savvy, but a little manipulative. Our parents adore her. I've always felt like the responsible one in the family. Despite that, we've generally had a decent relationship, though things have gotten tense in the last few years. Emily recently got engaged to her long-term boyfriend, Jason, 26M, and the wedding is coming up in about 6 months. From the start, she said it was going to be small and intimate, around 50 people max. My husband, Mark, 30M, and I were excited to be included. When she sent out the initial invites, she included me, Mark, and our dog, who she apparently considered part of the family. That part was cute and funny. Here's where it starts to get messy. Emily has always had this pattern of overthinking things and then reacting emotionally, and she started a +1 rule debate. Originally, she had told everyone +1s were allowed only if you were in a long-term relationship. Mark and I have been together for 8 years and married for 3, so we thought that counted. Then she started sending out texts asking people who their extra guests would be, and she specifically left out Mark as my +1, which confused me because she had included him in the first invite. When I asked her, she said she was worried about space and wanted to keep it small, and that if I wanted to bring Mark, I would have to convince the rest of the family. That seemed absurd, but I didn't push too hard yet. Fast forward a few weeks. Emily decided to invite some of her college friends who aren't particularly close to her family. A few of these friends brought boyfriends/girlfriends, and she didn't care about the guest count anymore. When I called her out on it, she got defensive and said, "Those are friends I don't see often. It's different." Plus, I made it clear it was a small wedding for family, not for spouses of long-term relationships. That made no sense to me. Things escalated when I found out she was inviting her childhood friend's new boyfriend who she had met a month ago. At this point, Mark and I realized that her wedding was going to end up being at least double what she originally promised. I tried to talk to her about it calmly, explaining that Mark being my spouse should be a non-negotiable +1 because it's my marriage. She blew up and said, "It's not my job to make exceptions. Everyone else is following the rules, so why can't you?" I told her that her rules were arbitrary and unfair, especially because she was bending them for everyone else except us. She responded by saying that Mark isn't really close with anyone except you, and it would be weird for him to be there alone. That felt like a slap in the face, honestly, because Mark is a huge part of my life, and she knows it. I decided to escalate things further by explaining to her parents. They told me that they thought I was overreacting and that Emily had the right to decide her wedding guest list. They said I should just go and be supportive. I tried to reason with them, explaining that my issue wasn't about being supportive. It was about respect and the principle of including my spouse, but they didn't really understand. Things reached a breaking point last weekend. Emily called me, furious, because I had made a Facebook post about weddings being about love, not arbitrary rules, which she immediately assumed was about her. I tried to explain that it was a general post, but she didn't believe me. She told me that if Mark wasn't invited, I shouldn't come at all. I had a long talk with Mark, and we both agreed that going to the wedding under these conditions would feel wrong and would probably cause a scene. So, we told Emily that we would not be attending unless Mark was allowed as my plus one. Her response was a long text filled with guilt-tripping statements like, "I can't believe you'd make my wedding about this," and "I guess my own sister doesn't support me." She ended the text with, "Fine, don't come then. You're choosing yourself over family." Now, a few people in the family are taking sides. My parents are still subtly shaming me for not going, saying things like, "It's your sister's special day. Why make it about a fight?" My aunts and uncles are split. Some agree that Emily is being unreasonable. Others think I'm overreacting and that I should just let it go. I genuinely feel like I'm being forced to choose between my husband and my sister, which is not fair. I don't want to attend a wedding where my spouse is considered optional, especially when Emily is bending her own rules for others. I also don't want to cause a huge family feud, but I feel like standing my ground is the only way to respect my marriage. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she won't allow my husband as my plus one. The story currently sits at 6,412 characters, so it meets your character requirement. If you want, I can also craft an even longer, more dramatic version approaching 7,000 characters with extra family dynamics, social media fallout, and side drama to make it feel even more like the most popular AITA posts. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of a gift dispute? I, 29F, have always had a complicated relationship with my older sister, Emma, 33F. We grew up in a very traditional family, where appearances and obligations often outweighed personal feelings. Emma has always been the golden child, smart, pretty, socially confident, and able to charm most adults in our circle. I, on the other hand, have always been the quieter, more reserved one, and honestly, I've struggled with feeling invisible in the family. Despite this, I've always tried to maintain a cordial relationship with her, mostly for the sake of our parents, because I knew that any visible tension would upset them. Emma got engaged about 8 months ago. I was genuinely happy for her at first, but as the planning progressed, I started noticing some concerning patterns. She became extremely controlling about every aspect of her wedding, which admittedly is her right. However, it quickly became clear that her expectations for family members, especially me, were unreasonable. She insisted on a very expensive bridal shower gift list and explicitly told me that anything less than a $500 gift would be disappointing. I was taken aback. My financial situation is tight. I'm living paycheck to paycheck, paying off student loans, and barely saving for emergencies. I could afford to spend $200 if I stretched, but $500 would be irresponsible. I tried to explain this politely, but she brushed it off and said, "It's just money. You can figure it out." I ended up sending her a gift worth $200, carefully chosen to be personal and thoughtful. I included a heartfelt note explaining why I couldn't go beyond that. When she opened it, she immediately made a scene. She started crying and accused me of being cheap and not supportive. She even went so far as to tell our parents that I had embarrassed her in front of her friends. Our parents, who have a history of putting Emma's happiness above mine, were visibly upset with me. They made comments like, "You don't understand how much this means to her," and "She's your sister, you should be more generous." I tried to stay calm and explained again that I valued her happiness, but $500 was beyond my means. They weren't convinced. The situation escalated when she sent me the formal wedding invitation. Along with it was a note stating that she expected all guests to contribute to a group gift for the honeymoon, which would cost around $600 per person. I simply couldn't do that. I responded honestly, saying that I loved her and wanted to celebrate with her, but that I couldn't contribute that much money without putting myself in financial trouble. She responded with a long text saying that she expected more from her family, and if I couldn't respect her wishes, maybe I shouldn't come. I struggled with what to do. I really wanted to attend her wedding. Part of me hoped that we could just enjoy the day and put aside the money issues, but I also knew that attending under these circumstances would be uncomfortable and likely humiliating. I decided to be firm. I sent her a message saying that I loved her, but I wouldn't be attending the wedding because I could not meet her financial expectations. I also mentioned that I hoped she would understand and that I would be happy to celebrate with her in other ways at a later date. Her reaction was explosive. She called me multiple times, left long voicemails accusing me of being selfish, and even posted passive-aggressive messages on social media that clearly referred to me without naming me. Our parents were furious, saying that I was throwing away the family and being petty over money. They begged me to reconsider, but I stuck to my decision. I felt hurt and frustrated because I was being vilified for something that is entirely reasonable. I cannot afford a $600 gift, and being pressured to the point of financial strain felt manipulative. The day of the wedding passed, and I received photos online. I saw Emma smiling and celebrating with friends and other family members. I felt a mix of sadness, anger, and relief. Sadness because I missed a milestone in my sister's life. Anger because she and our family treated me as though my love and support could be quantified by money, and relief because I avoided what would have been a very uncomfortable situation. Since then, there's been almost no direct communication from her. I sent a few messages trying to reconnect, but they have gone unanswered. Our parents occasionally mention her wedding and make comments about how things could have been different if I had just, which adds to the tension. I've had friends and coworkers give me mixed reactions. Some say I was justified in setting financial boundaries and refusing to be shamed for my circumstances. Others argue that I should have found a way to attend and simply given what I could, suggesting that $200 is not enough in a family context. I can see their point, but I feel that the emotional cost of attending would have been too high. I also worry that giving in would reinforce her belief that it's acceptable to pressure family members financially. I genuinely love my sister and hope that we can repair our relationship, but right now it feels like she values material contributions more than our bond. I'm also concerned about my parents' stance as they continue to subtly pressure me to apologize for not attending. I want to maintain boundaries and not compromise my financial security for the sake of appearances, but I also don't want to be the villain in my family story. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because I couldn't meet her extravagant gift expectations. AITA for refusing to change my wedding plans for my sister, who is throwing a huge tantrum over it. So, a bit of background. My fiancé, Tom, and I have been together for 6 years, and we finally decided to tie the knot this year. We both come from fairly large families, but I'm the eldest of 4 kids while Tom is an only child. Our wedding planning has been, well, stressful, but mostly because of outside influences rather than any disagreements between us. The issue started when we started talking about the guest list. We wanted a relatively small, intimate wedding, around 80 people, because we are not huge party people and we wanted it to feel personal. We both agreed early on that we would limit it mostly to close family and friends. My sister, Sarah, immediately started complaining when she heard about this. She is the second oldest and has always had a flair for dramatics. She immediately demanded we invite her whole friend group because apparently she couldn't be at a wedding without at least 20 of her friends. We told her politely that it wasn't possible and that we were trying to keep the wedding small. She said she understood, but I could tell she wasn't happy. Fast forward a few months, and we've booked the venue, sent out save the dates, and everything seems set. Then Sarah calls me one night, totally hysterical, because she found out that her best friend from college wasn't invited. She said this was completely unacceptable and that I was ruining her wedding experience by not letting her bring friends. I reminded her that this is not her wedding and that she has no right to dictate the guest list. She cried for about an hour and then hung up, leaving me exhausted. A few weeks later, she escalates. She announces that if we don't change our plans, she will not attend. She started posting on social media vague, but obviously pointed things like, "Some people think weddings are just about themselves, not family," and some people can't even be considerate for one day. Her friends started messaging me, asking what was happening. I kept my composure and didn't reply much, but it was stressful seeing the drama unfold publicly. Tom's side of the family is very different. His parents are very laid back, and he doesn't have siblings, so there was zero drama on that side. But now my parents are getting involved. My mom says Sarah is just hurt because she feels left out. Maybe you could make an exception. My dad is mostly quiet, but clearly annoyed that the wedding planning has become stressful because of one person. I tried explaining that we are not obligated to make anyone feel included at the expense of our plans, but my mom kept pushing. Things came to a head when Sarah demanded a meeting with me and Tom to negotiate her demands. She brought a list of 12 friends she insisted must be invited and said we could compromise by adding some of them, but not all. Tom and I refused. We told her we were sticking to our original plan and that if she couldn't respect our decision, she would have to deal with the consequences. She left in tears, calling me selfish and heartless. Now my parents are split down the middle. My mom's trying to mediate, saying, maybe just invite a few, it's not that big of a deal. And my dad keeps pointing out that this is not about her feelings, it's about our wedding. Sarah has gone silent on social media, but has been sending cryptic texts that imply she might actually boycott the wedding entirely. She said, I hope you realize you're making the wrong choice. You'll regret it. I feel trapped. On one hand, I know it's my wedding and I should have final say over guest lists. On the other hand, my sister is clearly deeply hurt and it's causing a lot of family tension. I've tried to reason with her, explaining that adding all her friends is not financially or logistically feasible, and that we can spend time with her friends in other ways after the wedding. But she refuses to budge. To make matters more complicated, some of my other siblings have started taking sides. My youngest sister thinks Sarah is overreacting and says I am being perfectly reasonable. My brother, however, just shrugs and says she'll get over it eventually, but isn't really offering support. I feel like my family is fracturing, and the pressure is immense. Tom has been supportive, but also frustrated. He keeps saying that our wedding should be about us and our happiness, not about trying to appease everyone else. I agree with him, but I keep thinking about how this might affect my relationship with my sister long term. I don't want a lifelong feud over a wedding, but I also don't feel like I can compromise on the guest list. So here's where I'm at. I've refused to change the wedding plans to accommodate Sarah's demands. I've explained my reasoning multiple times. I've tried suggesting alternative ways for her to celebrate or spend time with friends after the wedding. Yet she is still furious, and my parents keep pressuring me. Some of my extended family has even started whispering behind my back that I'm being unreasonable and mean for not considering her feelings. I feel like I'm doing the right thing, but also like I might be painted as the villain in my own family. I don't want to lose my sister over a wedding, but at the same time, I don't want to give in to unreasonable demands that compromise mine and Tom's plans. I'm at a loss. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to change my wedding plans for my sister, even though she's threatening to boycott and my parents are pressuring me. Character count, 6,394 if you want. I can create an even longer version closer to 7,000 characters that adds more drama, dialogue, and subplots to make it read like a top-tier viral AITA story. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she excluded me from the planning process and demanded I foot half the bill? So, I, 33F, have a younger sister, Emma, 28F, and we've always had a kind of complicated relationship. Growing up, we fought a lot, but after college, we seem to have grown closer. She's always been a bit impulsive and dramatic, while I tend to overthink everything. So sometimes our personalities clash. Emma got engaged about a year ago to her boyfriend, Ryan. From the beginning, she made it very clear that she had a vision for her wedding and didn't want much input from anyone else. I understood that to a point, but she also started dropping hints that I would be responsible for certain parts of the wedding, mainly financially. Initially, I thought she meant helping out in small ways, like contributing to decorations or maybe hosting a small bridal shower, which I was happy to do. A few months into planning, she sat me down and basically said that she wanted me to host the wedding in my house. I live in a fairly large suburban home with a spacious backyard, and she said she loved the idea of a family garden wedding. My initial reaction was to decline because while my house is big, it's not equipped to host a 100-plus person wedding, and I have a very strict budget and routine. I explained that renting a venue might be more practical, but she insisted, saying it would save money and that it would be so intimate and special to have it at my place. I started to feel uneasy because she also started hinting at costs, saying things like it's not that expensive if you just cover half of it. I told her that I wasn't in a financial position to cover half of her wedding, especially when she had never mentioned anything concrete before. I also reminded her that hosting a wedding at someone's house is not just about money. It involves cleaning, preparing, renting tents, tables, chairs, bathrooms, etc. I tried to make it clear that I could help in other ways, but I wasn't comfortable footing the bill for a wedding of that scale. Emma got upset and accused me of being selfish and not supporting her dream. She said that if I truly cared about her, I would be willing to make sacrifices. I tried to explain that helping doesn't always mean paying for half the wedding or turning my home into a wedding venue, but she wasn't hearing it. Over the next few weeks, the tension grew. She started excluding me from planning entirely, creating a separate group chat with our family and friends, and asking them to handle details that she had originally wanted me to manage. Things came to a head a month ago. Emma had chosen the exact date she wanted, which conflicted with a commitment I had to attend an out-of-state work project. I let her know I couldn't take time off, and she responded by saying that she didn't understand why I wasn't making this a priority and accused me of choosing work over family. At this point, I started to feel like nothing I did would satisfy her. I finally had to tell her that I would not host the wedding and that I could not contribute financially beyond helping in ways that didn't strain my budget. I tried to frame it in a supportive way, saying that I wanted her wedding to be amazing and that I would still help with ideas, small DIY projects, or even running errands if needed. I emphasized that I still wanted to be a part of her life and her wedding in a meaningful way that worked for both of us. Her response was dramatic, to say the least. She unfollowed me on social media, told our parents that I was absolutely refusing to be involved and had no regard for family, and started sending guilt-laden texts about how she would never forgive me for not making her wedding perfect. Our parents were kind of in the middle. They said I should at least consider hosting if I could, but also admitted that her expectations seemed extreme. Since then, Emma has continued to plan her wedding without me. She still invites me to some pre-wedding events, but it's clear that she's upset and not really including me in the core planning. I feel hurt because I genuinely wanted to support her, but her insistence on me hosting and paying for half of a large, complicated wedding crossed the line. I also feel frustrated because she never gave me an opportunity to help in a way that worked for me before turning everything into demands. Some friends and colleagues I've talked to think I'm reasonable and that it's not fair for her to expect me to shoulder such a huge responsibility. Others suggest that maybe I should just suck it up to keep the peace, but I honestly don't think that's realistic or healthy. I still love my sister and want to have a relationship with her, but right now it feels like she sees me as an obstacle to her dream wedding rather than a supportive sibling. I'm worried that this conflict will permanently damage our relationship, but I also feel like giving in to her demands would create resentment on my part. So, Reddit. AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she demanded I cover half the cost and take full responsibility for it at my home? Or am I justified in setting these boundaries? AITA for refusing to pay for my brother's wedding after he insulted me in front of our entire family? I, 29M, come from a pretty close-knit family, or at least I thought we did. My older brother, James, 33M, is getting married next month, and the planning has been nothing short of a soap opera. I want to preface this by saying that I've always been the responsible one in the family. I've been supporting myself since I was 18, paid for college without any help, and have always been the one my parents and siblings come to when they need advice or money in emergencies. I've never minded helping, but I also have boundaries. About 2 months ago, James told me that he wanted me to contribute financially to his wedding. I was a little surprised because we had never discussed this, and while I know weddings can be expensive, I wasn't exactly swimming in money either. I asked him how much he wanted me to contribute, and he said flatly, $2,000. Everyone is chipping in, so don't be cheap. I was taken aback, not because of the amount itself, but because of the tone. I asked him if this was mandatory, and he said, "Well, it's expected. You're my brother, aren't you?" I told him I needed some time to think about it, and that I might be able to give him something smaller, but $2,000 right now was not realistic for me. He rolled his eyes and walked away. A few days later, our parents got involved. They said, "It's your brother's special day. You should want to contribute. You don't want to cause family drama, do you?" I explained that I wasn't trying to be difficult, but $2,000 was a lot for me, and I could offer my time and help with planning instead. They sighed and said that he really wanted everyone to contribute, and it would look bad if I didn't. I tried to make a compromise. I offered to help cover some of the smaller costs, like decorations, flowers, or helping set up on the day of the wedding. I even offered to plan the bachelor party and help with the rehearsal dinner, which would take a lot of the burden off him. But he shot all of that down, insisting that he needed the money itself. Then came the kicker. Last week, we had a family dinner to discuss the seating chart, and he went off on me in front of everyone. He said, and I quote, "I can't believe my little brother is being so cheap. After everything I've done for him growing up, this is how he treats me." I was stunned because, as far as I know, he hasn't really done anything extraordinary for me. Sure, he helped me move a couple of times, but nothing compared to what I've done to support him over the years. I tried to stay calm and said, "James, I'm not being cheap. I just can't give $2,000 right now. I've offered other ways to help, and I'm more than willing to do that." But he just scoffed and said, "Other ways? Money is the only way that matters. If you can't even do that, I don't know why I even bother including you." The entire table went silent. My parents looked uncomfortable, and my younger sister, who usually defends me, just shook her head. I felt humiliated. I decided that moment that I was not giving him a single penny. I told him, "I'm not paying for your wedding. I've offered help in ways I can actually manage, but I won't be bullied into giving money I don't have. If that's a problem for you, that's on you, not me." After that, he got visibly angry. He said, "Fine, don't come then. I don't want someone who can't even support me financially in my wedding." I told him that wasn't the point and that I still intended to come and celebrate with the family, but only as a guest. He said, "I'll think about it," and stormed off. Since then, things have been tense. Our parents keep asking me to reconsider and keep saying I'm being unreasonable and ruining family harmony. My sister sent me a long text saying that I should just pay the money to avoid drama, and that James is just stressed and didn't mean what he said. My friends say I'm right to set boundaries, but my parents think I'm being selfish. Honestly, I feel like I've already compromised as much as I can. I've offered my time, effort, and help with planning every part of the wedding, and I've even offered smaller financial contributions that I can afford. But he's made it clear that nothing short of $2,000 will satisfy him, and he insulted me in front of the family to try to pressure me into paying. I feel hurt, angry, and honestly a bit betrayed. Weddings are expensive, but being publicly humiliated and guilt-tripped by a sibling is not something I can just brush off. So AITA here for refusing to pay for my brother's wedding after he insulted me in front of our entire family. I'm prepared for tension, but I also feel like giving in now would set a precedent that my boundaries don't matter. The way I see it, I've already contributed in meaningful ways, and money shouldn't be a measure of love or support. But I keep wondering if I'm overreacting and turning what should be a happy occasion into a family drama. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss new uploads. And feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean the world to me. See you in the next video.